He stood at the edge of the basketball court, barefoot gripping the ball with cracked hands as the sun scorched down on the faded concrete. His name was Trey, just 17, living in a broken trailer in the heart of Mississippi, where dreams didn't grow. They dried up. Most people said Trey wouldn't make it out of the trailer park. They said his dad was a drunk, his mom was gone, and kids like him didn't get chances, they got statistics. Trey didn't care what they said. He had one thing they couldn't measure, one thing they couldn't take from him: fire in his chest and a dream in his heart. Would wake up every morning before the world even opened its eyes, running laps around the gravel roads, dodging broken bottles and glass, like he was born to move, like he was born to fly. Then he'd shoot on that same rusted hoop nailed to a telephone pole till his arms gave out and sweat blinded his eyes. He didn't have a coach. He didn't have a gym. He didn't even have shoes worth wearing. But he had grit, and every time he missed, he'd whisper to himself again, like it was some kind of prayer to the future. Nobody believed in him except one person: Old Man Carter, the janitor at the local high school. He'd seen Trey sneaking into the gym after hours shooting hoops till the alarm almost went off. Carter never turned him in. Instead, one night, he left him a note scribbled on a piece of cardboard. "You got something, kid. Don't let the world steal it." That note became Trey's Bible. He kept it in his backpack next to a half-eaten protein bar and a pair of duct-tape sneakers. That note meant someone saw him, really saw him, and believed. But life didn't wait to test him. On a humid August night, Trey got a call. His dad had crashed into a ditch 3 miles from home, drunk behind the wheel again. This time he wasn't coming back now. It was just Trey and the silence and the smell of stale beer that lingered in their trailer like a ghost. He could have given up, right? Then could have said, "I've got no one, no money, no future." But he didn't. Got up the next morning, ran even harder, shot until his fingers bled. And then he did something crazy. He filmed himself, a 30-second clip of him dunking in slow motion. The rim bent sideways, the backboard cracked, but he flew. He uploaded it to social media with 3 words: "Watch me rise." He didn't expect much, maybe a few likes, maybe a laugh from the other kids. But the internet had other plans. That clip went viral. Overnight, some called it luck. Others said it was just a fluke. But one scout from a small community college in Texas saw that clip and picked up the phone. "You got talent, kid," he said. "Ever think about playing for something bigger than your block, Trey?" Didn't say yes right away. He looked at that cracked rim, at the silence in his trailer, at the note from Carter, and then he whispered, "Now just think about it. I live for it." The next few months were a whirlwind. He got a scholarship. He moved to Texas. He had a bed, a locker, a real coach for the first time in his life. And every single day, he trained like he was still back in Mississippi, running from the past, but running towards something greater. But success wasn't a straight line. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the tallest. The other players had better gear, better nutrition, better lives. What they didn't have was Trey's pain. They didn't carry a memory of being hungry on game days or walking 10 miles because he didn't have gas money. They didn't know what it felt like to play like your future depended on it, because for him, it did. One day during a practice, a coach yelled at Trey, saying, "You're too slow. You'll never make it past this level." Trey didn't argue. He didn't yell back. He went home that night and taped that insult to his mirror. Then he ran until his legs gave out and crawled home on burning feet. Made a promise to himself. "If you think I'm done, you haven't seen anything yet." The next season, Trey exploded on the court, averaging 20 points per game, breaking records and catching eyes from bigger schools. His name started showing up in articles and rankings on ESPN. Reporters wanted to know, who is this kid? Where did he come from? He smiled every time they asked and said, "Nowhere, but I'm headed somewhere." During a regional game with scouts watching and cameras rolling, Trey twisted his ankle badly. It swelled to the size of a grapefruit. They said, "Sit it out, kid, protect yourself, think about your future." But Trey taped it up, gritted his teeth, and walked back onto the court. He played like the pain didn't exist. Because he'd lived with pain his whole life, this was nothing new that night. He scored the game-winning shot and limped off the court with tears in his eyes, not from the pain, but from the roar of the crowd that had once been silence. After that game, he got offers. Real offers, full rides from Division I schools, dreams knocking on his front door, but he chose one that meant something deeper. A school in Georgia that had a community outreach program for kids from poor neighborhoods. Trey said, "I'm not just playing ball. I'm building bridges." He started mentoring kids after practice, kids who looked like him, who lived like he once did. He told them it doesn't matter where you start. It matters what you decide to become. Every weekend he drove back to Mississippi visiting Carter, who now walked with a cane. He'd bring him pictures, jerseys, trophies, and Carter would say, "I always knew, you just had to believe it yourself." Years passed. Trey made it to the NBA, not as a superstar, not as the face of a franchise, but as a fighter. A player known for hustle, for heart, for playing every game like it was his last. When he retired, he didn't disappear. He opened training camps for underprivileged kids all across the country, taught them more than basketball, taught them hunger can be your fuel and brokenness can be your power if you don't let it define you. One night, standing at the opening of a new gym named after Carter, Trey looked out at a room full of kids and said, "You want to know the secret to success? It ain't money. It ain't connections. It's pain. It's choosing to rise every single time life knocks you down. It's turning every no into fuel, every doubt into fire, and remembering that the world may forget you, but you do not forget who you are, because no matter where you came from, your story is not finished until you write the ending yourself." The gym was buzzing that night. Reporters flashing lights, kids screaming his name. But Trey wasn't there for the fame. He was there because he remembered what it felt like to be invisible. He walked through the crowd, shaking hands, hugging mothers, nodding at kids who stood where he once stood, hungry, barefoot, and overlooked one boy, no older than 10, pulled on his jacket and said, "Mr. Trey, you think someone like me can do what you did?" Trey knelt down, looked the boy in the eyes, and said, "I don't think I know, but you gotta want it more than air. You gotta fight like nobody's coming to save you, because most times they're not." And that moment became a spark, not just for the boy, but for the hundreds watching in silence later that year. Trey published a book not about plays or stats, but about pain and perseverance. He called it The Fire Inside, and it became a bestseller not because it was polished, but because it was raw. He spoke at schools, prisons, youth shelters. He didn't sugarcoat it. He told them about nights with no power, eating peanut butter from a spoon, about crying when he missed a game-winning shot in college because he thought he'd failed the kid he used to be. People asked him, "How did you do it? How did you make it out?" He always said the same thing: "I stopped waiting for someone to believe in me, and I started believing in myself." But success wasn't just about climbing higher. It was about reaching back down. One of the boys he mentored, Jalen, got a full ride to a top university, and when he signed the letter of intent, Trey cried harder than he did at his own draft day. That's what it was about. Every kid that rose was a win against a world that said they wouldn't. Tree built a foundation named Watch Me Rise, the same words he once scribbled under a viral video. They funded education, mental health programs, sports scholarships for thousands of kids across the country. He stood before Congress once testifying about poverty and potential. He told the story of missing his high school prom because he couldn't afford a shirt, about being called trash by a teacher who said he'd never graduate now. That teacher used his name in lessons. He didn't seek revenge. He used it as fuel. He said, "Pain made me, but purpose saved me." Years rolled on. His knees started aching. His back reminded him he wasn't 20 anymore, but his fire never dimmed. And then one winter afternoon, Trey returned to the same cracked court in Mississippi. The rim was still bent, the backboard still scarred. But kids were there now, laughing, playing in jerseys that had his name stitched across the back. He watched them for a long time, arms crossed, heart full. Then he walked over, picked up a ball, and said, "Let me show you." Something they gathered around. He dribbled, slow, deliberate, took a shot, missed, laughed, then whispered again. He shot again, made it. This time the kids cheered. He looked around and realized this. This was it, not the trophies, not the money, not the interviews, but this moment, this echo of a boy who once stood alone with nothing but a dream and a rusted hoop. Now, he wasn't alone, he was a lighthouse. And long after he'd be gone, his story would still shine. Before he left, one of the kids asked him, "Mr. Trey, what happens if I fail?" Trey smiled, bent down, and said, "You will. That's how you grow. Failure isn't the end. It's a test. The real question is, what will you do the next morning? Will you run again? Will you shoot again? Will you whisper to yourself again, again, because that's the difference. That's the line between the ones who stay down and the ones who rise. Not talent, not luck, but the choice to keep moving even when it hurts, even when no one's watching. Especially then, that's where champions are born. That's where you write your story, one shot at a time, one breath at a time, one whispered promise in the dark. And if you do that, you keep going. There'll come a day when you look back and the pain won't be pain anymore. It'll be your power. It'll be your proof that you were never weak, you were just becoming.